RBQM, or risk-based quality management, is an evidence-based process for assessing, controlling, communicating, and reviewing risks associated with the planning and execution of clinical trials. This regulatory-driven approach introduces a new way of working to bring therapies to market effectively, quickly, and safely. Are you at the onset of transforming your clinical operations into a predictable and compliant process? Then stay tuned, because participant safety and regulatory compliance aren't optional. Welcome to MindsON RBQM, a new e-learning series brought to you by the My RBQM Academy, based on the popular interactive MindsON workshop. In the upcoming 7 episodes, we'll zoom in on the backbone of risk-based quality management and take you through the essentials of Section 5 of the ICH E6R2 Good Clinical Practice Addendum. Every episode consists of several short lectures, each no longer than 12 minutes, so you can conveniently fit your e-learning sessions into your busy schedule. Depending on the complexity of each episode, the number of lectures may vary. The format of this series, which is based on the popular live MindsON workshop series, will also incorporate interactive elements such as polls, brainstorming, and quizzes, challenging you to wrap your head around the concept of RBQM. And now it is time to meet your instructors, Keith Doricott and Johan Preve. Keith Doricott is heading his independent consulting company, Doricott Metrics and Process Improvement. With a solid background in Lean Six Sigma, business process improvement, and root cause analysis, he assists the Metrics Champion Consortium among other activities. Keith holds a bachelor's degree in physics. Besides being a much sought-after industry speaker, Johan Preve brings data-driven realism to the table, ensuring that clinical trial risk management goals are implementable in the real world. Johan has a huge depth of experience in clinical research, which has been invaluable to many. Now that you understand the format of this series and have met our instructors, it's time to begin. Now that you are reminded of the format of this series, we can continue our journey through the essentials of Section 5 of the ICH GCP E6R2 Good Clinical Practice Addendum. Welcome to the first lecture of Episode 6, Issue Management and Root Cause Analysis. Before you start exploring issue management and root cause analysis, we strongly suggest you watch previous episodes from this series. These provide insights and contextual information that will help you understand this episode better.
Welcome everybody to our MindsON webinar number 6. And what we want to cover today is a recap of the previous steps. You are used to it. Then talk about issue management, the root cause analysis, why did it happen in the first place. We'll provide you with a summary and also take a brief look at the next step, which is linking then the issues with the risks. So let's start with a brief recap for those of you that did not have a chance to watch all the other webinars, and also to help you to understand where in the process the issue management fits into the overall risk-based quality management process. As you know, we always start with the critical processes and the critical data definition, because that is what ICH E6R2 asks us to do as a pharma company, as a CRO, as someone who wants to implement risk-based quality management. And based on the critical data and the critical processes, these two that are certainly linked to each other, we do the risk assessment. So we first identify then the risks that are associated with these critical data and critical processes. We gather the data, we assess the study to identify the risk, and when we say we assess the study, we mainly mean that we take a look at the protocol, but it may also be that we look at the other settings around the protocol, which means, is this an outsourced study? Are there lots of external data that need to be brought in-house? So to also identify critical processes that might be affected. In the next step, we quantify the risk, and quantification means that we score the risk with respect to the likelihood, the impact, and the detectability that a certain risk may materialize, because not every risk that we might identify is worth to be followed up, while others are certainly those that we definitely need to keep under control, and therefore this quantification or the scoring of the risk is really important. After we did that exercise, we move on to the risk mitigation and the control activities, because it's fine and good to have identified the risks, the critical processes and data, but we also need to think about what is it that we can do once a risk materialized. And we should do that prior to a study starting, because otherwise, it may take too long to identify those risk mitigation activities. So what are the actions to reduce the risk? What is it that we can do to ensure that once a risk materialized, it moves back into the design space, which means it moves back to the area where we expect it to be? And for that, we have to define key risk indicators, KRI standing for key risk indicators, and we need to set tolerance limits. So for instance, for the QTLs. And finally, develop an issue mitigation plan, because in case that there is an issue, we need to have everything in place so that we can act upon a risk or an issue right away. And what we want to do today is look into the issue management. So monitor key risk indicators for issues and manage the events and the conditions. Now, once you went through this entire process, at the bottom, you see that the risk management results should be archived. Now, don't take this literally. When we talk about archiving, we also mean that you implement a lessons learned session. And by the way, not only at the end of the study, but maybe also during the study, because you need to review your risk more or less on an ongoing basis, which means maybe every 3 months, every half a year. And in parallel, you should also communicate any particular findings to your peer project or study team members, because what you identified in your study may be something that is applicable also to their study. And therefore, you see on the right-hand side the risk communication part, which is important. And on the left-hand side, you see the risk history box, which is referring to metric results and lessons learned that should be fed into the next study or into your peer studies that other study teams work on.
We hope you enjoyed the first lecture of Episode 6, Issue Management and Root Cause Analysis. In the following lecture, Keith and Johan will discuss how to reduce an issue's impact and prevent it from happening again.